It's been a long while since we've gone out there and talked about Detroit Red Wings conversation. So what I wanted to do in this video was head over onto The Athletic and talk about a piece published yesterday by Max Bultman. July 17th, so this is from Monday. Which Red Wings line mates maximize Alex DeBrincat? This is a mailbag, and I'm pretty sure if you're familiar with The Athletic, you know how these work. Fans send in their questions, and Bultman goes out there and answers them in his opinion, and because The Athletic is paid for material, we're not going to go out there and screenshot this straight up, but the link is going to be in the description if you want to go ahead and read this yourself. However, today's conversation revolves around one of the comments that Max Bultman made, in particular regarding the two Red Wings rookies from 2 seasons ago. Defenseman MORITZ SEIDER, the Calder winner and overall stud, as well as Lucas Raymond, the guy who was leading that Calder run at the beginning of the season. Both of these guys are on their entry-level contract, and they both expire at the end of 23-24, meaning that as of right now, both Seider and Raymond are eligible to get contract extensions, but at the time of recording this audio, that has not been the case. Let's go over onto Bultman's piece and talk about what he has to say regarding these two via the Malik report. Now, of course, The Athletic is paid for material, but if whatever it is said on The Athletic is screenshotted and printed somewhere else, then that's out of my control. So we're heading over onto the Malik report because we had ourselves an article that goes over what it is that Bultman says. The Malik report, of course, this is George Malik on his own website. The link is going to be in the description to this article too. But this is what Bultman talks about in regards to Seider and Raymond's contract. The question comes from Adrian. I don't believe I noticed anyone ask about Seider or Raymond extensions during press conferences. So, is there any chance either of them sign a long-term or medium-term extension this summer? I'm assuming that Seider is more likely than Raymond. This is what Bultman goes out there and replies. I'd be quite surprised to see Raymond extend this summer. There's too much incentive for him to have a big season in 23-24 before locking in with any kind of term. His talent level is so high, and it wouldn't shock me at all if he gets a 60-point season next year. Seider is a more interesting question, as you can make the case that there is an incentive for both sides to lock in now. From Detroit's perspective, it would be trying to lock in a foundational defenseman for the long term before the cap rises, and from Seider's perspective, well, what more can he really prove in the next year? Bearing a top 10 Norris-type season, which would likely take a 60-point outburst in addition to strong defense, he's already proven himself to be a number 1 defenseman worthy of $8 million or more on the market, and who knows if it's him or Gostisbehere getting power play 1 looks next year. I haven't heard any rumblings of an imminent extension with either, so we'll see how it goes, but I agree that Seider is more likely than Raymond. Before we continue with the other comments that are written about here, I wanted to just go over that idea, just give my overall thoughts as to the extension dollar amount numbers, as to what guys could be worth, etc., based off of their previous performance. Lucas Raymond did have some sort of a sophomore slump this previous year. 45 points compared to his 57 in his rookie season, albeit in 8 fewer games. Now, he did drop off in goals and assists, so when it comes to the idea of him signing a contract extension now, you could debate that if he wanted to go long-term, he might actually be selling himself a bit short. Because what's the likelihood that Lucas Raymond goes out there and has a 40-point year next season? I don't really know if it's all too likely. Based off of what we saw to him in his rookie year, plus the progression of guys as they get further and further into their careers, it would not be surprising if Lucas Raymond gets 60 points next year, as Bultman writes out. 60, 65 points, maybe 70 if you really wanted to stretch it. Do you think he has a great third year? If Lucas Raymond signs an 8-year contract right now, what does that look like? $6 million? $6.5? I feel like that's a fair dollar amount for the service that Raymond provides right now, but of course we all expect him to get better, and better by a pretty significant magnitude. Back when Raymond was drafted, we all said this guy could be like Mitch Marner 2.0, but Swedish, and that guy's a 90-point player. So, if Lucas Raymond has maybe an 80, 90-point ceiling, if he signs long-term now, he's not going to get the dollar amount that reflects that, so there isn't really an incentive for him to go out there and sign that contract today. As Bultman pointed out though, MORITZ SEIDER had a really strong second year. Sure, the point production dropped off for him as well, he had 42 points compared to the 50 he had in his rookie year, but we saw more of that rock-solid defending, he was playing, he was strong, he's got longevity, and the role of Seider on the team is arguably more important than what Raymond provides today. And so, because Seider has already proven so much, and because he is already very, very good, there is an incentive for either side to try to lock things down. It's not like Raymond, where we're all sort of expecting him to get significantly better, you know? For Seider, if he does become maybe a top defenseman in the NHL period, that would be awesome. I wouldn't be too surprised if it happened, but where he's at already is pretty good too. So there is a good reason as to why both sides would want to get a contract extension done long term. If you go back onto the Malik Report article, which cites the Athletic article, this is what Bultman writes about Seider. I'm most curious to see if the Red Wings are willing to go right to 8 years with Seider rather than bridging. Yzerman dealt heavily in bridge contracts in Tampa, but we've seen most of the game's top-flight young defenders taking long-term deals straight out of ELCs in recent years. To me, Miro Heiskanen makes a lot of sense as a comparable player. Seider actually has more raw point production at the same age, which matters with contracts, but Heiskanen already had Norris votes to his name due to his elite defensive ability. The Dallas Blue Liner inked long-term for just shy of $8.5 million, which, on the projected $87.5 million salary cap for 24-25, would be about $9 million. That to me would be a solid range for a long-term deal, with an $8.7 million cap hit to match Larkin as a possible logical conclusion. And so, when it comes to the idea of a Seider contract, Bultman really dives more so into that rather than Raymond, mostly because for Seider, defense is different than forwards. You normally see a lot of forwards grow steadily over the pace of their careers and eventually reach higher highs and even higher lows by the time they reach their primes at 24, 25, 26. Raymond and Seider are just a tad below that. Raymond is 21, Seider right now is 22, but for defensemen, we're sort of in that new wave. We've seen the Heiskanens, we've seen the Makars, the Hugheses, the Adam Foxes break in and solidify themselves as top-of-the-line defenders right away. Hughes is signed to a long-term deal. So is Cale Makar. You've also got Heiskanen and Adam Fox signed to a pretty steep dollar amount. However, when it comes to just the logistics of it, while Moritz Seider may not necessarily get the point production that these guys do, Quinn Hughes, one of the top defensemen in scoring last year, Cale Makar had an 80-point season the other year, Adam Fox, also a Norris winner, even though Moritz Seider does not have that same level of point production just yet, I'm not even going to say just yet, he just doesn't have that same level of point production. I will say he's a lot more physical and a lot more, let's just say, of a rock to play against than Quinn Hughes is, for example. They defend in different ways, but they're both equally effective. And so when it comes to Seider, signing this guy to a long-term deal would actually be pretty solid for the Wings right now, but it would be even more solid if Seider is able to unlock a lot more offense to his game. Not to say that the 40-50 point-ish range that he's established as the norm in his rookie and second seasons is bad, but if you're able to really unlock more than that, 60, 65, 70 points out of Seider, then things could get even better for Detroit. Although, it is an interesting concern that if you talk about the power play time for next season, who knows what's going to happen there. Shane Gostisbehere is a power play specialist, and he has been for the past few years, so if you're going to have these newer players like DeBrincat and Gostisbehere take over your first power play, then I wonder where Moritz Seider's point production really goes for next season. If he drops off to, let's say, 30 points in the year, but he's still as effective defensively, does his dollar amount go up in a contract extension conversation? Do you believe more so that he's going to have the capability to grow and get better offense when he's got other guys ahead of him on the depth chart logging up power play time? Of course, Gostisbehere is not going to be here forever, and Seider is projected to being here longer, most likely, but I'm questioning where you decide to go with that conversation should that be the case. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your opinions about Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider, the idea of these guys signing contracts? What are your thoughts on the article published by Max Bultman? The link is going to be in the description to the Athletic piece as well as the Malik Report, because the Malik Report has the Bultman article without a paywall. So, thoughts in the comment section below. What are your thoughts about contract extensions? If you were to sign these guys today to 8-year deals, what would you give them as their dollar amounts? Or if you were to sign them today but not to 8-year deals, what would you prefer instead? What do you think is most appropriate in this situation for Stevie Y and the Wings? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Raymond, Seider, the contract, etc. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.